Welcome to Grace in the Grind with your host, Jim Burgoon. I'm grateful that you're here. If you're a Christian in business, we're here to empower, to equip, and to encourage you to do all that God's called you to do in this world. And today, my good friend, Dave is here with you of New Beginnings Motivation, and he's going to share with you what new beginnings are and how that is going to play out in your life. And Dave, welcome to the show, and just let the audience know who you are.
Thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's such an honor to be with you. Everybody, the name is Dave Vrablik. I am the founder and president of New Beginnings Motivation, and we are here to serve men or women who have reached the peak of their careers but have a burning desire to want to connect to a deeper part of yourself. And the journey of New Beginnings started back in 2018 after the death of my older brother at the age of 39 when I finally realized when I was 35 years old after losing Joe that I was not living my life to its fullest potential and that I was not living my life authentically and that I was living to the expectations from what doctors from 34 years in the past told my parents from a very young age. And I decided in that moment that I was going to live my life to the way I wanted to live my life. So it's an honor to be with you today, Jim. And thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you on the show. And so we're going to dive into some questions, some conversations around what new beginnings look like. You mentioned your brother. We're going to talk about that because our listeners are Christians in businesses or own business or in business, and they deal with everyday stuff. And mortality, death is one of those things. And so, with that being said, I got an opportunity to listen to you at Movement Maker Live 2024 this past March. And one of the things that you said when you opened up your story, you were like, live your most authentic life, even through all the curveballs. And I thought it was a powerful statement. Unpack that statement with me and help me understand, like, what does it mean to truly live authentically while getting hit by curveballs?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. What I was saying during that time and what I still talk about today is life, no matter what you're going through, is still going to try to throw you curveballs. And what I mean by that is through my personal stories. After my brother passed away in 2018, life didn't stop. I was still trying to navigate how to figure out how to live my life. My brother was more than just my brother. He was and still is my best friend. And every single day, I still talk to him and seek out his advice. And even though that he can't talk back to me and give me the advice like he used to when he was alive, I still do that to this point. And what I meant and still mean to this day when I talk about how life will still throw your way was about 4 years after his passing, I had a accident that changed the trajectory of my life, where I slipped on ice and I smacked my head on the concrete and caused 3 brain bleeds. And that significantly impacted my life and how I have to live my life every single day. I struggle with migraines and headaches, and I have visual disturbances. I stumble over my speech. I have sound sensitivity, life sensitivity. I had to basically teach myself how to live life differently. The man that I was before Joe's death and to after the accident completely shifted. My personality shifted. I lost my faith even before, not before, even after my brother's death, because I didn't quite understand why God would take away such a beautiful soul that was such a integral part of my life. And when the accident happened, I had this accident and then found out 3 months after the accident, I had thyroid cancer. Here I am at the age of 39 years old, right? And I'm dealing with a brain injury and 3 brain bleeds and trying to deal with the ramifications from that. And life is still hitting me from every side, throwing these curveballs. But here I am now dealing with thyroid cancer and not knowing if it was going to spread to the rest of my body. And I could have easily given up and said, to heck with it and not keep pushing forward. But I always knew within my heart and soul that all of these challenges that were hitting me the baseballs hitting, the curveballs coming my way. No matter how many times I was getting knocked down, I always had the strength to get back up. And I developed this Kevlar around my heart and around my being, my essence, to be able to get back up, to create those new beginnings, those new trail maps, to be able to continue to push forward and to live my life authentically. And what that means is to live in tune with what my heart and soul desires want to live my life. How do I want to live my life? How do I want my legacy to be remembered? I don't have kids and I never will, but that doesn't mean I can't create the legacy that I want to live and pass down to my adopted nephew, my adopted nieces, and my friends' kids. And that's when I discovered what true authentically living my life is, by living to a saying that my father passed down to my brother and I, is integrity is who you are when no one
Absolutely.
is looking. And
Yeah.
that's what living your life authentically is in my perspective.
No, that's great. And you said a lot there. Okay. So we're gonna unpack some of the stuff that you just opened up a can of something here. We're gonna unpack this. I'm gonna go back to one thing you said. You said, "Hey, I've always been able to get back up.
Yep.
I build Kevlar, things like that." Just for the listeners' benefit, was that real? I'm gonna push back on you a little bit. Was that always the case? Like you've always had this ability to get up, or has there ever been a time where you have been really challenged? I don't want to get up, even though you still got up. What were some of the emotional struggles you had to go through to make sure that you always got back up?
There were two incidences in my life, and thank you, Jim, for asking that question, because vulnerability for me has always been a challenge. And I appreciate you asking that question. So, the first time was in 2007, I gave up and I did something that potentially would not allow me to still be here today. And by the grace of God, I still am. And it was thanks to a very dear friend of mine for jumping into action and to get people involved and to allow for me to still be here today. And that very dear friend is Austin Cunliffe up in Des Moines, Iowa. And when I mentioned my two adopted nephews, that's his two sons, Marshall and Bo. That was the first instance in my life when I gave up. And I always think back when those thoughts do come back into my mind. If I feel like I have nothing left in the tank, I think back to that moment and think to myself, do I really want to give up? And I think to myself back to 17 years ago and thank God that I never did. And that's what fuels the fire to keep me pushing forward. And then there was a situation earlier this year that if it wasn't for honestly you, Jim, and getting to know you and getting to know your heart and Michael Faber and the Unleash Now family, and two other brothers where I got to spend a week with to help me get in tune with my heart and soul again and do a deep dive into myself. There possibly could have been a chance that in the beginnings of myself would still be here, but not in the same phrase because life, once again, was throwing curveballs and I was listening to the negative naysayers instead of the people around me that love and care about me. And when I finally was able to block out those negative naysayers and I knew those who I love and trust and care about, and I let them back in, that's when I was able to build the Kevlar to protect my heart and to be able to let certain people back in to my heart because I don't trust my brain as much anymore because of the brain injury and
Right.
because of the ADD. I get into my heart and soul more. And that's when I reclaimed my life and I reclaimed my purpose in life.
Man, that's good. And I want to take a moment before I go into the next question, because I definitely got a next question. And for you, the listener who's listening, and David alludes to this suicide and suicide attempts and things like that. I want you to make sure that you, the listener, understand that there's no judgment for where you are, but that it comes in to seek help, whether it's dial 988, the suicide helpline, or to reach out to a trusted person, or even reach out to this show. And we're happy to be here and help. Suicide is something that's near and dear to my heart. My wife struggles with it. So with that being said, I want to make sure that you, the listener, understand that all of that is going to happen at time to time if you've got a lot of curveballs happening, but there's help. And please, please reach out. 988, so maybe your local pastors, local mental health facilities, reach out to the show. Happy to be assistance because you matter, and what matters is that God has a purpose for your life, and we want to see that planned in. And thank you, David, for letting me take that little detour there because I feel like that was an incredibly important thing you said, the struggles. And I wanted to sit in that moment and let the audience know, let the listener know that who are going to be struggling with this,
I
that
agree.
that there is a way. Yeah. Go ahead.
You're very welcome, Jim. And I'm glad they pivoted that direction because it's the mental side of things in our country today is something where a lot of people feel alone. And like Jim said, everybody, you're not alone in this. Jim has a beautiful platform and that he has a beautiful heart. So if you're in those moments, reach out to him, reach out to his community. He's there for you. And I'm here for you too. But what Jim said, thank you for sharing that, brother.
Yeah, man. So let's dive a little deeper into some stuff. Like one of the things you had mentioned, the man before the death versus the man after the accident were not the same. Walk me through the intensity of that shift. That had got to have some real baggage to that.
So the man before the accident was a man that always had true excitement in his life, true love, never saw a ill thing in anybody, no ill intentions. I always believed in the best in people. And I always believed, even when from high school all the way up until my 30s, I didn't date much. And there were so many times that I would be emotional from 18 all the way up until I met my ex wife when I was 28, 29 years old. I would pray for her. And then when I met her when I was 30, got married and got divorced when I was 39, I never had a negative thing to say about anybody. And when the accident occurred when I was at the tail end of my 38th year of life, that all shifted. I started judging people. I started being negative about people. I started to question people of their intentions. And there were people that I even questioned their intentions that are very close and dear to my heart. And it hurt them to a point that my friendship, my brotherhood with them nearly ended because I would never share my whole story. There were certain parts of my life that were completely blocked off, even with my closest brothers. And I did that to them. I did that to Michael Faber, and it nearly broke our friendship. And it took a lot of time to rebuild that. And fortunately, by the grace of God, that Michael and I are back to being even closer of brothers that we are today. I my self-doubt after the accident, my confidence was shooken because I didn't trust my mind. I didn't trust that I was going to be able to take care of myself for the rest of my life. I went back to what the doctors told my parents when I was a kid. And even though I trusted that for the first, I don't know, 30, 35 years of my life, I started to embrace that the confidence within me when new beginnings became a reality and I made the decision I was going to become the man that knew how to help people, the king of new beginnings, because I've been through so much in my life. And then I lost that sense of that after the
Mm.
accident because I started to think about how am I going to be able to help people with new beginnings if I have a mild traumatic brain injury, right? Who's going to trust a man that has a mental instability? But then there was a shift in June and July when I realized that it's not the mind that has the knowledge, it's the heart, it's the soul. It was the pain that I went through. And even though it took me longer to be able to create everything that I've created within New Beginnings, it was the divine intervention when I finally lifted the vibranium, as they call it in Marvel, with the Black Panther that I had surrounding my heart. Once I broke those down and allowed the mentors and the people that love and care about me not be defensive, and to be able to take the criticism without it being a personal attack, that's when everything shifted. And so instead of being the defensive teenager that was still within me at the age of 41 years old, breaking that by bringing them down and embracing who I am today. Yes, I'm broken. I'm coming from you guys live from the guest room of my parents' house because I just had a knee surgery a week ago, getting ready for a full knee replacement because I am fully committed, even though my knee is killing me. I am fully committed to the people within New Beginnings, the people that I serve, and the people that I can reach to help. If you're ready to create a new beginnings, let's go.
Man, that's good. I love it. And you're the epitome of that. Even you even mentioned that during the 2024 Movement Makers meeting. You said, "Don't ever stop, don't ever quit." And you're the epitome, like the embodiment of don't stop, don't quit. And I appreciate your story so far, and I appreciate what you're sharing. So it really jumps into tell me and tell the listeners the protogenesis of New Beginnings. We've heard a little bit about that and what you're saying. So what does New Beginnings really looks as a business, as a company, as what does it do for people? And why does it matter? Like, what is that whole philosophy and heart behind New Beginnings that people should be connected to?
So the heart behind New Beginnings and why people should connect to it is when you think about when you become a Christian, you're born again. When you accept Jesus Christ into your heart, you're born again. But when you add in the New Beginnings, God gives us the ability and the divine right to be able to recreate any area of our life where we want to take our old life and begin again into our new life. And what I'm getting at, this has nothing to say that new beginnings is anything at any level what Jesus Christ did for us on the cross. What Jesus Christ did for us on the cross outdoes anything that we do here on earth. What I'm getting at is we all have that divine right to be able to create a new path within our life. If you feel like you're stuck in a rut and you want to get unstuck and you want to rise above the ashes, if you're going through a challenge in your life, like what we talked about earlier, Jim, if it's a suicide ideation, like we're talking about, we don't feel like we'll ever get out of that. I can tell you, people, you can get out of that. I have been stuck
Mhm.
numerous of times throughout the 20 years of my adult life. And by the grace of God, I have rose above the ashes. If you feel lonely, frustrated, or your fear of the unknown, you have the ability to be able to reclaim your life and to reinvent your life. And to be able to awaken a part of your life where you can strengthen any area of your life, to be able to unite within a community where you can soar to higher levels and to thrive. Imagine living a life truly and authentically in alignment with what God wants you to live your life and to be able to create that legacy where you're standing on the top of Mount Everest. I have always been fascinated by Mount Everest. I still don't see the appeal by people climbing that mountain because you go as high as commercial airliners and what that mountain does to your body. And at one point, yeah, I did want to climb that mountain when I was in my 20s, but now in my 40s with a knee replacement coming down, no, thank you. But I've always said when my time is done, I'm going to ask whatever angel or archangel is going to take me to heaven. I'm going to ask them if we can take one little pit stop and stop at the summit of Mount Everest just so I can see, because I've always been fascinated, even though heaven's going to be far better. But it's just, it's one of those things where imagine standing at the top of the mountain with your family, blood related or not blood related, your family. It's who you choose to have with you, to scream your declaration and your anthem, to see your legacy continue. That's what New Beginnings is all about. To start from base camp where the dreams are born, then to exit the base camp with your pack packed to enter the base of the mountain, start climbing to the summit. That's where New Beginnings stands with you. We'll help you traverse the mountain. And I'll be with you every step of the way, even with the bad knee and even with the new knee. I'll be with you every step of the way. And if that means I have to have my buddy Nathan throw me on his back, the good news is he can carry me. He's built like an ox. I'll be with you every step of the way.
And every journey needs an oxen. And that's awesome, man. That's great. And I appreciate you sharing New Beginnings and what that means and in the context of your story. which makes you an incredible guy because you've been there and you're helping others do the same. So, what is the role of your faith that has played in this whole journey? Like everything we talked about, the beginning of it to new beginnings to now, what is the role of your faith?
So my faith, as I mentioned before in the beginning of this show, Jim, I'm still in the process of rebuilding it. I rejoined the church back at the beginning of this year. I will tell you, I did not go back to church in the first about 6 years of my brother's death, and I'm just getting back into it. And I'm glad I did because I've gotten reconnected to God. I got reconnected to my core values and my morals. And I broke it down into an acronym of what faith really is. And personally to me, and faith is forgiveness. And the first letter is F, forgiveness, forgiving myself and for everything that I've done in the past and shifting my perspective to the future, to not allowing the past to hold me and taking that as a learning opportunity and being aware of what the future is going to hold, trusting my inner strength and trusting my inner voice. Because I know that my inner voice is not just my voice, it's God's voice telling me in what direction that I need to take myself personally and my organization, and having trust in his plan, knowing that he has a plan for new beginnings. Because my plan is not always the best direction I need to take new beginnings. I need to trust in his plan and to have the hope that new beginnings will impact those who resonate with what new beginnings is all about. And by reincorporating my faith back into the business and into my life personally has completely transcended new beginnings to a whole different level and has allowed me to connect with so many amazing people such as yourself. So by allowing God and faith to re-envelop my heart has been a completely transcension or new beginnings in my own life. And I am grateful that I've opened myself back up to those new opportunities.
That's good. Thank you. So, if people were looking to find you, where would we find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. I know I have a very complicated last name and I would apologize for that, but I really can't. That was my grandfather's fault. But you can find me on Facebook. My name is David. It's V as in Victor, R-A, B as in boy, L-I-K. Or you can look us up, New Beginnings Summit. That's our private group, but that's a way to get a hold of me there. But I'm the only one with the last name Vrablik, probably on Facebook. So it won't be too hard to find me. We also do have a website, New Beginnings Motivation LLC.com.
And for you guys who are listening, all of that will be in the show notes. So make sure you grab the show notes, the transcripts, and all that stuff. We will link them down for easy access, easy ability to just click and follow. And I do highly suggest you follow him. He's a great guy. He's a great man. And he has such a deep heart and compassion for people. You will always be grateful that you followed this man. So with that all being said, my friend, what is a wisdom bomb? Because in this segment of the show, for you guys who listened to the show and followed me for a little while, I do a segment that's called hashtag wisdom bombs. Go to my Facebook profile, Lead with Jim. You will see them for the last 2 years. Pretty faithful. And I always ask my guests, what is a wisdom bomb? Something you get, a piece of wisdom that you can give somebody and leave it with them so that when they leave this show, they can take it with them.
Absolutely. And it's easy, my friends. If you're at odds with somebody in your life, a significant other, a parent, a cousin, aunt, uncle, or a sibling, you're not guaranteed a tomorrow. The last thing I said to my brother on April 18 or April 19, 2018, through a text message was, I love you, buddy, and I'll talk to you later. He died 3 hours later. I have not had the opportunity to get to talk to him yet. Don't take a day for granted. If you're at odds with somebody in your life, tell them that you love them. Tell them that you'll always be there for them because you never know when their time could be. Take every day as a blessing. Tell the people that you love and care about that you love them. And every night when you go to sleep, send somebody a message. This is my challenge to you. Send somebody a message. It doesn't mean if you're at odds with them or anything like that, but send somebody a message that you love and care about them.
That's good. Thank you for sharing. What's up?
Yep. Oh, no, you're good.
Oh, thanks for sharing that with me, man, and sharing that with the audience. And it's super important. super important. Last year I had some really close family members pass from cancer, and you don't ever get the chance to say I love you or goodbye again. And so they're definitely important. First and foremost, David, thank you for being on the show with me. Thank you for being on Grayson's Grind and to really pouring your life and vulnerability into the listener. So first and foremost, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for you, the listener, that you made it this far in the episode, we honor you. We thank you. Remember to take some time and review podcasts, do some rates, do some reviews for us. It would help push it out and make sure that you go out and do the things that you hear. Don't just be listeners, be doers. And you have been listening to Grace in the Grind, where we're here here for the Christian in business to empower, encourage, and equip you to do all that God's called you to in this place, in this world. So thank you for listening and make sure you check out the other episodes. We'll see you on us on the next one.